Welcome to the video. If you've been following along with the Tyre Nichols case, then you know that 5 Memphis police officers were recently fired and charged with murder, kidnapping, and some other things. But of those 5 officers, one of those officers had actually had a civil rights complaint filed against him before. In this video, I'm going to pull up that complaint and we're going to see what those allegations were.
Yeah.
There were 5 officers, as you know, Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Desmond Mills Jr., Emmett Martin III, and Justin Smith. It turns out Demetrius Haley is the one who had an allegation against him before. It was a civil rights allegation that was made by someone who was serving time in prison. And I want to just give you a little bit of background about Demetrius Haley. So he was actually hired by the Memphis Police Department back in August 2020. He had previously been a corrections officer for Shelby County Corrections Department, and he had also previously worked for the Memphis Police Department. So this particular complaint was filed in the U.S. District Court out of Western Tennessee, and I believe it was filed in 2016. Let me pull that up so that we can take a look at it. So let's get the details here on this. And we're going to go through this complaint where this person makes some allegations about what Demetrius Haley had done to him. And there were a couple of other corrections officers who were named in this complaint too. So it wasn't just a complaint against Demetrius. In this video, though, we're going to talk about the complaint. We're going to specifically talk about some deficiencies that I saw when people are representing themselves and filling out forms. The problem is they may not know the process, which was a problem here. They may not best represent themselves and the facts and what happened when they are simply filling out a form. They think it's just a form. I'm just going to fill out this form and I'm going to be done. But that form is only as good as the information that you put on it. And I think that that was one of the issues with this. I think it could have been much better. But this person's not a law student, not a paralegal, not an attorney. So there's no way for Mr. Sledge to know this. Let's jump into this complaint and see what was actually filed back in 2016, I think this is. So it's Mr. Cordarius Sledge. Please forgive me for not getting that quite right. And I did sort of practice a little bit. I thought I had it down, but I guess not. Versus Shelby County Division of Corrections. So remember, this was when Demetrius Haley worked for the Division of Corrections. There are also 2 other people who were named here. You will see them there, Officer David Dyson and Sergeant Danny McLean. All right, so here it is. It's a form that he is filling out for this civil rights violation, this treatment that happened while he was serving time. Says here, previous lawsuits, have you begun other lawsuits in state or federal court dealing with the same facts involved in this action or otherwise relating to your imprisonment? This is an easy one, yes or no. Either you did or you didn't. B, if your answer to A is yes, describe each lawsuit in the space below. If there's more than one lawsuit, describe the additional lawsuits on another piece of paper using the same outline. In this case, again, he had already said no, so there's nothing to state here in regards to any of these questions. Parties, plaintiff and defendant, the court where it occurred, the docket number, the name of judge. Disposition would be the place where the person might want to elaborate on what happened. The approximate date of filing the lawsuit, approximate date of disposition. None of that was applicable in this case because this was not something that had been filed before. Next question. Place of present confinement, Shelby County Division of Corrections. Is there a prisoner grievance procedure in the institution? And he checked yes. So here's the thing, and this is going to come up much later as I dig into what happened with this complaint against Demetrius Haley. If there is a grievance procedure in place, it's not enough to say, is there one? It's, did you follow it before you filed this civil rights complaint? Because that is actually required under the law. So he has checked yes here. B, did you present the facts relating to your complaint in the state prisoner grievance procedure? He says, yes. Number one, what steps did you take? It says, I filed a grievance on these officers' actions. Two, what was the response? What was the result? Never got a response. Now, what I want you to think about here is this is Mr. Sledge's form, okay? So this is what he's saying. He's saying, yes, I did file that grievance and I never got a response. Okay, we're going to see in some future videos what that grievance was that he actually filed and whether or not he got a response, what that response was. So we're going to take a look at all of that in additional videos. But right now, in this one, we're really just talking about this particular complaint. After that, you'll see that it says, if your answer is no, explain why not. Well, in this case, he's stating that he did. Parties. In item A below, place your name in the first blank and place your present address in the second blank. Do the same for additional plaintiffs, if any. So he places his name and address there. Then the information for the other officers there. But it looks like he does David Dyson under B. And then under C is where he adds Danny McClain and Demetrius Haley. Okay, so let's get into the actual statement of claim, what he is saying that they did wrong to him. State here as briefly as possible the facts of your case. Describe how each defendant is involved. Include also the names of other persons involved, dates, and places. Do not give any legal arguments or cite any cases or statutes. If you intend to allege a number of related claims, number and set forth each claim in a separate paragraph. Use as much space as you need. Attach extra sheet if necessary. Okay, that should give you some idea here. When they say set forth each claim in a separate paragraph, use as much space as you need. This is the place to tell your story. This is where you help them understand what happened to you. If you do a poor job here, let's assume you went through the grievance procedure and you did follow the rules there. If you do a poor job here of telling your story, it has the potential to impact the decision or the outcome or the next steps that are taken regarding this. So this is where it's all on the line and it's all up to you in order to get it right. This is what he says. Officers came into 14 blocks for a random search. They said they'd seen smoke coming from the area I was in. I was called to the restroom to be strip searched by D. Haley and David Dyson while Sergeant Danny McClain supervised. They said I tried to flush contraband. D. Haley and Sergeant Danny McClain hit me in my face with punches, and David Dyson picked me up in the air over his head and slammed me face first into the sink and then to the floor. After that, I blinked out. I woke up at SCDC Medical. That's his story. One paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences. He only uses 6 sentences to tell his story. Now, I've already looked at this, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the ways he could have added more information here. Again, assuming that he's gotten the grievance process and everything straight, let's talk about what he possibly could have added that would have been more substance to this. So details matter, okay? He talks about going into the restroom, and the best thing he can do is provide more description. So for instance, he talks about waking up at SCDC Medical. Okay, well, how many days were you there? Did they have to have you go back for other medical visits? Did they give you painkillers? Did they put bandages on your forehead? You said you were punched in your face. Did you have to have bandages? Are there medical records? I mean, what are there medical files? What injuries did you sustain? Like, talk about, the next day, were you sore? Was your eyes swollen? Were your teeth sort of feeling and your gum feeling achy? Was your jaw hurting? Did you have trouble eating? And if so, how many meals did it take for you to get back how you had been eating before? What activities could or couldn't you do? Did it, he talked about being punched in the face. He talked about being picked up. you know, that's another one I'll come back to in a second. He says this piece about they were saying that I tried to flush some contraband out. So what are they saying? Was there contraband or not? And this is a difficult piece to talk about here because of the possibility of him implicating himself in another way. And so it's sort of difficult to talk about that piece. And he says they hit me in my face with punches. So how was your face injured? And then this piece about he lifted me up over his head. That's a point at which you can talk about your general size. You know, you can say something like, I'm only 5'6" and I only weigh like 175, 160, 175. And this officer looks like he weighs at least 230. You know, give some background and set the stage for what this looks like. Otherwise, you know, you have missed an opportunity to truly tell your story. And again, this is not a put down of Mr. Sledge. There's no way for him to know what detail he needs to go into. He's not an attorney. It doesn't appear that he's an attorney. So it's going to be really hard for him to sort of say everything and get everything right, to present the best picture. He's given some space there. He does the best that he can, which is all that we can ask for anyone. So after this place where you can give all of this detail and add pages. Okay. Then next is relief. State briefly exactly what you want the court to do for you. Make no legal arguments, cite no cases or statutes. And he says, I would like these defendants to be held for their actions. Jury demand. I would like to have my case tried by a jury. Yes. And then you have the certification under penalty of perjury, signed April 11th, 2016. And that's the rest of this is just about the mailing here. So that sort of sums this up. And this whole, you know, the takeaway, number one, is there is this complaint out there against one of the former Memphis police officers about a possible civil rights violation that was alleged against him back in 2016. And I'm going to get into some other videos that talk about why this was dismissed, and that dismissal is not necessarily on the merits. So it's definitely something that we want to talk about. So just to give you an idea of what this was about, what occurred, and it doesn't, and let me go back to one other thing on this complaint, because I do want to make this one part clear here, that even though there were 3 people who were there when it occurred, what he says is D. Haley and Sergeant Danny McClain hit me in my face with punches. So he's saying that Demetrius Haley, one of the former Memphis officers that has been let go, he was one of the ones who hit him in the face. And the other person was a person who picked him up. Okay, so distinguishing between who did what actions and who may not have stopped another person from taking certain actions. So again, this is Mr. Sledge's complaint, what he filed, and I hope that gives you further information and background. You've got the document now that you can take a look at yourself and roll through this video to see exactly what it says, to understand what the complaint was against him back in 2016. So if this gave you some additional information for this case, then go ahead and give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.